Now that the Minnesota Vikings traded for Cam Akers, everybody's worried about Aaron Jones and what the future looks like for Aaron Jones in a Minnesota Vikings uniform. Not that they're going to trade him or release him, but because of his hip injury that happened against the New York Jets. Aaron Jones comes to the Minnesota Vikings via free agency from the Green Bay Packers with a little injury history. Not as bad as we thought or assumed after I did a little research on it a couple of years ago, looking at Aaron Jones' injury history. I was looking at the schedule. I was looking at the games he plays. Like, this guy's not as hurt as everybody thought, as I thought. You know, they made it seem like he missed almost every single game for the Green Bay Packers. He missed a game here. He missed a game there. It's not as concerning as everyone made it out to be. But the Minnesota Vikings did trade for Cam Akers. And this was inspired by Aaron Jones's injury that happened against the New York Jets a few weeks ago. Now, there's a few things that we need to address. One, the Minnesota Vikings were super lucky that their bye week happened when it happened. After the Jets game, Sam Darnold was dinged up. Aaron Jones, dinged up. Justin Jefferson a few weeks ago was dinged up. Blake Cashman, dinged up. These are all very valuable players to the Minnesota Vikings and a huge reason why they're currently 5-0. So we cannot overlook this massive break the Minnesota Vikings received in having their bye week where it was. It happens, and the Minnesota Vikings were a benefactor of that break. The second thing, coming out of the bye week, the Minnesota Vikings play 2 games in 5 days. One against the mighty Detroit Lions that just dominated the Cowboys 47-9, who Mike Zimmer is the defensive coordinator of. And then they have to travel to Los Angeles in 3 or 4 days to play the Los Angeles Rams in 5 days on Thursday Night Football. And that is the motivation behind this trade. The motivation behind this trade isn't the concern of Aaron Jones. It isn't the concern of his long-term health. One, they do want to make sure he's not overutilized this season, and they've been doing that since week 1 by giving Ty Chandler reps. They're not going to roll Aaron Jones out there 40, 50 times a game to pass block, to run the ball on every single play, because they want to maintain him and make sure he's healthy throughout the length of the season and make sure he's good for a playoff run. That was always the plan to begin with. But now, bringing in Cam Akers allows them to do that even more, especially with 2 games in 5 days. This is not a problem for Aaron Jones's long-term health for the Minnesota Vikings. If it was, he would not have been on the practice field in uniform, going through the walkthrough, having a light practice in a limited fashion for the Minnesota Vikings this week. Aaron Jones is fine. He's probably not 100%, but he's not like 20, 30, 40% either. He might play against the Lions. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't, because the Vikings play in 5 days. And that is the reason why they did this trade. You don't want to play a guy that just got nicked up, that has a little injury history, twice in 5 days following the bye week, right when he's almost 100%. And that's why they brought in a guy that's familiar with Kevin O'Connell's system, a guy that has played under him before, and a guy that can play all 3 downs and adds depth to the Minnesota Vikings. Can catch out of the backfield, can make sensational blocks, and can do all of that stuff. This is not an Aaron Jones problem, but more so an added depth piece to the Minnesota Vikings running back room, especially if Ty Chandler is asked to take the brunt load of the Minnesota Vikings runs and passes and pass blocks, because Ty Chandler's not a great pass blocker. Maybe he improved it this year, but he wasn't last year. So bringing in Cam Akers, a guy that can do a little bit of everything, is an important thing to the Minnesota Vikings running back room, and an important thing to making sure Aaron Jones can get 100% healthy when the Vikings play twice in 5 days. And you know what's great about the Thursday game is that, hey, maybe Aaron Jones plays one out of two. Maybe he plays both of these games in 5 days. But if he does, it'll be in a limited fashion. But what's great is after Thursday, then the Minnesota Vikings have, 10 days off again before they play again? So get through Thursday, have Aaron Jones rest one of these games, and then he will be good to go for the rest of the season.
You're a realist, and what you're saying is true.
Thank you very much, Dalton Reiser. I appreciate that. That's what's happening, and that's what's going on inside the Minnesota Vikings organization.